Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hammered Sports Productions. I am here with Matt po
Pomella.
how do you
Pomella.
po Pomella,
There you go.
the Marshfield High School head coach for the men's rugby team. Thank you again for doing this. I can't say that enough. Uh, I guess I just want to jump right into this. Uh, how did you end up as a head coach for rugby? Since there seems to be very limited amount of opportunities
That's
around
a long
here.
story. Um, that is a long story. I excuse me. I started playing rugby in high school. My best friend got me into it. I had never heard of it, and he's like, "Hey, dude, we're doing this." And so I started playing, and it was crazy and fun. Just like I think anybody who's watching this probably had that experience their first time playing rugby. Is
I can speak from
yeah,
experience.
yeah. It's mayhem, but it's a blast, right?
Yes,
And
it very much is.
so I played 3 years in high school. Then I went to college. I played a bit in college when my classes allowed it. Um, After college, I racked up some significant debt, so I moved home with mom and dad and got a local job. And after a couple of years of working around, I actually ended up with a job teaching at the high school I went to, which was not part of the plan, but life takes you where it will. And when I took over there, or when I got in there as a teacher, my high school rugby coach was closing in on his retirement. Larry Small was his name. Great guy, really great guy. Um, and he was looking, he asked me if I was interested in helping coach. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he put it on me. He was like, why don't you take the lead and do what you want to do, what you think we should do. And I mean, he did all of the behind the scenes paperwork stuff, which anybody who's ever coached any sport ever knows that there is just an ungodly amount of. And we had a really great season after they'd had a couple years of struggles, and we ended up having a really great season. We won the New England U19 championship that year, and that was it. It was in. So the next year he's like, "Look, you knew what you're doing. You did great. I showed you all the paperwork stuff behind the scenes. Like it's your show now." And that's how I became the head coach at Marshfield High School.
Just what year was that, out of curiosity?
That's a great question. I think that was 03, 04. So the spring of 04.
Wow. So, because I was recently at Marshfield. That's how I know guys had a rugby team because I work for the semi-pro football team. I was walking
The
around when I was trying to find.
Hurricanes.
No, I actually work with the Granite State Destroyers. We
Yeah. The Hurricanes have probably like 4 or 5 of my former players on there.
oh yeah, they beat us in the regular season and then they beat us in the playoffs this prior year. Yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty
that
good.
was yeah, they're pretty good. So yeah, I was walking around trying to find the bathroom, and then I just so happened to walk by your guys' championship things, and I look and I see rugby, and I'm like, Marshfield has rugby?
Oh yeah, we Coach Small started a rugby team in Marshfield in 1982, which we believe is the second oldest high school team in New England. Brookline started a team in 1981. A guy named Ian Ryrie started that team. Ian and Larry were teammates playing for, geez, I want to say it was the Boston Gentlemen they were playing for at that point, which eventually, after several, morphs, became what's currently the Boston Men's.
Jeez, I wasn't expecting the 80s. I was
Oh
expecting to say
yeah,
like 90s.
no,
Jeez.
he started in '82. I played there in the early '90s. Then I got back there in the early 2000s. It's been a long run. It's fun, and I when I first took over, I didn't, when I first became a teacher, I wasn't sure I wanted to become a teacher, but it's kind of where life steered me. And when I wasn't sure I wanted to be a high school age coach, but I've really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Um, and there's something really satisfying about teaching kids a sport they don't know anything about. So they're blank slates, which is nice. I also I coached football for a little while, and I also coach wrestling. And occasionally you get athletes who you have to do as much work unteaching them certain things as teaching them.
Uh, So, so if you guys are the second oldest, then who the hell did you guys play? Like, if I'm like I'm like, if
So
like
early
did you
on, I was, geez, I was in like elementary school when they started. But I've got some of the old records. Early on, they scrimmaged each other, twice a season, something like that. And then they did a lot of hosting of teams, right? We've got all sorts of shields from English clubs and Irish clubs that have come over, and so there was a lot of that. When I was in high school, I think I played two English clubs. We hosted two English clubs. One, geez, I wish I could remember a little bit better. I want to say my sophomore year, my senior year, but I'm not 100% on that. And I know when I was in eighth grade, they went over to Ireland on tour. Then a couple years after I took over, we went over to Ireland on tour in '06. And we were scheduled to go to Scotland in, I want to say it was '08 when the volcano erupted, Reykjavik. I think it's Reykjavik, the volcano, and it canceled all the flights to Europe. So that was the Wednesday before we were flying to Scotland. And actually just got approval a week ago to take the team to Northern Ireland in the spring of 25. So a lot going on.
lucky bastard?
Yeah.
If only my team could do something as cool as that.
Yeah,
But
some of it is it's a ton of work, right? Anytime you're trying to build anything, it's a ton of work. And a little bit of it is build it and they will come. I coached men's clubs. I coached the South Shore Anchors for a few years, and in the middle of my coaching tenure, we were having 40, 45 guys at practice. And so I was talking with the administration, and I'm like, look, I think we need to put our B team in a Division 3 or Division 4 so that these guys can get more field time, more game time. People stay in the club because they want to play, right? The whole point is to have some fun and play. Um, and for various reasons, they didn't move on that. And but now I look at New England men's rugby and the teams that did move on that, Mystic and the Wolfhounds, have really solid clubs now, versus most of the other men's clubs in New England struggle to field B-sides or just straight don't field the B-side, which I think is it's a real problem. We
I can speak to the
rugby's
experience. That is a problem.
yeah, rugby's a sport. The position it's in, we need to continue to grow. If we don't grow, we're going to wither. It's the only choices. The staying still at the size we are now is not really feasible long term. We either need to grow and so we can draw more support, more financial support from the economy around us, so we can support the Eagles and every other club better. And I say that, and you should know that I'm always an advocate of supporting grassroots. One of my biggest gripes for the last 35 years of rugby is like, where are my dues going? Where is my SIP going? But in the grand schemes, we need to support grassroots so that we can support mid-tier, so that we can support elite, so that we can be competitive, internationally.
Yeah, let's just say my situation was pretty tough because my college here up in Plymouth didn't actually field a rugby team for 2 years because it's like it died. Nobody was signing up for it. So to your point, like if you don't like go out there, we stagnate, you'll die.
Yeah,
We basically did die for 2 years. I was part I was part of like a wave of guys who re-signed up, and we ended up having enough to finally field a team again back in 2021. Now this was during COVID. We only had 2 games due to it. We only played Middlebury University and East Connecticut University. But since then, we've like steadily built. And at one point, we were just I think there was 17 of us, 18 of us. Then there were 25. Now there's 35 of us.
yeah. That 17 to 25 number seems to be really common, and that's the point where the players you have, are satisfied, right? They show up and they can practice and they have a spot, so they stop pushing on the recruiting. But that is the growth or death zone. for rugby. You don't have two guys at every position. You don't have competition for every position. So it's really easy to have for guys with bad attitudes to come in and be moderately successful without putting in all the work that the rest of their teammates deserve out of them. But once you get up to the 30 players in that neighborhood, man, the caliber of rugby you produce, it just changes dramatically. And I feel like that's a really good analogy for where USA rugby is. We
Yeah.
we just don't have quite enough. We have enough that a lot of people are satisfied, but we just don't have quite enough.
Yeah, to add to your point to the success in numbers, my team was actually 1-4 last year. We went 1-4, and then we had like an exhibition playoff game for like third place in our division. This year, with an infusion of more guys, we went from 1-4 to 4-0 and made it to our conference championship. And we scored, I think, 210 points to only letting up 10 points in 4 games played.
Yeah, see, that's pretty nice, right? It
Yeah,
just takes
we
it
we
just
would
takes some more
murder people.
bodies. More bodies creates more commitment. That was one of the things when I took over at Marshfield. Prior to that, it was a club. Well, I mean, officially, according to the school, it was a club. And so Coach Small was doing the 2 practices a week club model that a lot of men's clubs do. Um, but the problem with that is American students look at that 2 days a week and it's like, it's a hobby. It's not a real commitment. When I came in, I was like, well, I just did a season of football and a season of wrestling at 5 days a week. Why don't we just go 5 days a week? And the kids jumped on it, and which surprised Coach Small. And he was like, geez, I didn't, I have a hard time getting them to do 2 days a week. I didn't think they'd want to do 5 days a week. And we lost a couple kids, but mostly kids are like, oh, wait, yeah, like that to them, the 5 days a week model, that's real, right? So once we started doing that, they're like, oh, wait, this is a real sport. It's real. Like the number of times I heard that, I'm like, man, it's always been real. It's just about how you treat it. One of the things I used to have to tell them all the time is like, you want to be treated like a varsity athlete, you have to act like a varsity athlete. You want to be treated like a good rugby player, you got to act like a good rugby player. Which I think, is one of the many lessons that team sports teach you that help you be a better person, right? What club?
Just
I'm sorry. What club do you play? What college team was it?
I play for Plymouth State University Norseman.
Oh yeah, I know Plymouth State. I've had a couple alumni go there. Yeah, I've had a number of players play at Plymouth State. Dave Robinson comes to mind. Although when did he graduate? He was probably he was out of there long before COVID. And he probably
Yeah,
graduated there in 17, 16, maybe.
then yeah, I definitely didn't play with him. He might have played with my former coach though I can't confirm that. By any chance, do you know a person named Allie Lombard?
I know Allie. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, she plays for the girls team.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that's she. I actually asked her for like if she could help me get in contact with you and stuff like that, and she gave me your name, and that's how I was able to
Oh, that's
find out,
awesome.
little snippets. Yeah, she's still an ass kicker. I can tell you, she kicks ass in games.
That's awesome. That's excellent.
Mentioned how you used to be able to club team, but now that has
Oh,
changed.
yeah. So when I played at Marshfield, rugby was a club. It was not, it wasn't recognized by the MIAA or any other real um, American known organizing body. It was high school rugby at that point was run by Marshfield. Um, and so it was a club in the school. When I came in, I wanted to treat it like a sport, like any other sport, and so we started doing 5 days a week. Let me start over. So the club sport thing. When I came in, high school rugby was administrated by NERFU, not by the MIAA or NCAA or any of those other more recognizable bodies.
Mhm.
So the school, where all the varsity sports are MIAA, decided that rugby was not a varsity sport; it was going to be a club. So the school categorized it as a club, which basically just a paperwork thing. Who cares, right? And the coach, treated it a club from the view of men's club rugby, which is where he played. He So that was the model he used to organize it. When I became a teacher, I my first year I coached freshman football, 6 days, 5 days a week plus a game on Saturday. My first winter I coached wrestling 5 days a week plus Saturdays. So when it came to spring season and rugby came along, I was like, why don't we just go 5 days a week? That's what I've been doing all school year. Let's just do it. And the kids see it as a that's how sports are. So when you switch over to the model that they recognize, that they know, that they understand, they start taking it a lot more seriously.
Mhm.
Because to them, that's how sports are, right? They don't. And this was like in the early 2000s. Outside of soccer, kids, most of them didn't have any experience with club sports. We After that year, we won New England's. After that year, Coach Small went to the school committee and basically petitioned to get a paid coaching position, and actually ended up getting two paid coaching positions. Basically with the idea that like, look, we've been doing 2 days a week. It was a club and great and fine, whatever, and you were paying a club stipend to the club advisor. These guys have come in and they're doing 5 days a week, and wow, look at all the success we had. Look at how awesome it was for the kids, and we'd like to continue that, but that costs money. And so the school committee agreed and give us coaching stipends, which was excellent, right? Excellent. I got paid better to coach high school than I got paid to coach men's. Um,
Mhm.
and then so that was in, let's see, oh 04, the end of 04, so 05 I was paid. 06, 07, 08 I was paid. In 08 there was a budget crunch and they unfunded the position, which is a real problem if you know anything about how unions work. Teachers have unions. Um,
Jesus.
so what we had to do was we had to fundraise and give the money to the school so that the school would fund the position, because as a union member I couldn't work the position for less money than it was contractually negotiated for. It was a real pain in the neck. So that
Sounds
went on
like it.
for that went on for a few years until Bill Good of Myro um, made a successful push to get rugby recognized by the MIAA. So Myro became one of the first SR. They called SROs. I forget because I don't really coach that much youth. Um, but Massachusetts became one of state-based state-based rugby SBROs. Massachusetts became one of the first one, I think maybe the first one, based on Bill Good's work, which Bill like I forever be grateful for that. Bill recently passed, which is too bad. He's a legend in the New England rugby community,
Damn.
and he got the MIAA to recognize rugby. At which point my school was like, oh, all right, well now you're a varsity sport, and boom. So my funding came back for the coaching positions, and they paid for our buses, and they paid for our refs, and they paid for our balls. It's awesome. A lot of the coaches were really worried about it because they lose back in support. Is just so worth it to be like, hey, I need balls. Here's the bill. Boom, done. It's so worth it. Um, so now we're a full MIAA sport and have been in you know for quite a while now. It's pretty awesome.
We're kind of going through your problems right now. We're we're not recognized by any league because, to my knowledge and my understanding, is there is no governing body to administer rugby in the college level. To my
Um,
to my
there's
understanding.
there's several is I think more the problem. Um, NERFU, I believe, still administers one league of college teams in New England. In addition to NERFU, there are a couple other organizing bodies um, that each have their own national championship system, although it's getting more organized. It's not there yet, but it's getting more organized. USA Rugby still causing a little bit of an issue with it, is my understanding. I don't coach college, so I don't have all the details. I don't want to throw shade at anybody who doesn't deserve it. But
Okay.
there are several organizing bodies, and what what I would recommend is look at your school's traditional league and contact those other schools and see if they have rugby, and see if your traditional league has enough teams to form a rugby league, and then get that. You can look up rugby college national championship, and you'll get three, I believe. There's small college, and then there's NCO and whatever, and you can petition to join. I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork and probably some money that goes into all of that, as there is with everything. But we're trying to grow the sport, right?
Yeah. Currently we play we currently we have a two conference system with what's the one that has like the double R in it? God, what the frick is that?
I'll be honest
It's
with you.
like
I'm a teacher, so all I hear all day are acronyms. So I can't remember any of them.
I I know I probably should have like read this up, but I didn't think this would come up. Oh my God. It's like the double something R, and we play in our division we have Franklin Pierce, Endicott, and
Hmm.
Dartmouth and Wentworth. That's who
Yeah.
we
Did you
play.
play Endicott this year?
Yes, we played it.
Yeah. I think
I
one of their captains is one of my alumni.
yeah,
Redheaded kid.
they creamed us.
They're pretty good. They are pretty good.
At least we didn't give up 100 like Salve.
Um, that's another weird thing for Americans to kind of wrap their brain around. And one of the things I hear a lot from the parents when we're starting a new season, from the new parents, is like, well, what's the scoring like? And I generally kind of compare it to college football, NCAA football, where, like, you can have games that are 7-14, or you can have games that are 52-56, or sometimes you have games that are like 80-14, and that happens. Um, so, but I think the scoring's part of what makes it fun too, right?
Yes, when you're the one who is scoring.
You're the one doing it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's more fun that way. It's God, it's like you bring in to talk about it. I'm just like I keep let's. You've got me thinking about Endicott all of a sudden. That was a long day.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, they're it's a well coached squad, but it's also, I think, when you look at that Endicott squad, I happen to know that, like, at least 4 or 5 of their starters played high school rugby here in New England. Um, and like, what a difference it makes when freshmen walk in, and, oh man, you know how to pass, you know how to tackle, you know where to stand. We just have to teach you how to play our way. Versus freshmen walk in, like, so this is a rugby ball. It's it's a big difference. One of the things I work on now is a high school coach. I'm trying really hard to build more of a connection between myself and the local college coaches. I am for my men's club, for the Anchors. I'm the youth development coordinator, and so we run a summer sevens program for U19s. We run a fall this year. We ran a fall 15s program for our U19s, and right now we're running a winter U19 program, uh, which I actually have to head to in about an hour. and
Oh, geez.
and so one of the things we're trying to do is bring in the college coaches as guest coaches, so the kids can get a taste of what the next level of rugby is like. So the sport of rugby retains players. One of the things that I struggled with when I was a younger coach, I'd have all these great players, and we won a couple of New England championships, and then none of them would play college rugby. And I get it, because when I went to BU, and I didn't first semester, I didn't join college rugby. I played for 3 years in high school. We went to an Eastern National Championship, or whatever the tournament was called, and there's a rugby team there, and a couple of my friends asked, not knowing that I had previously played, asked me to
Hmm.
play, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't know. And eventually they twisted my arm. I lost a bet. They twisted my arm. I played spring season, and you walk in and you know how to throw a pass, and you know how to line up, and you know how to scrum and line out, and all of a sudden, like, boom, like, we had three sides. Hey, you're on the second side. I know it's your first day of practice. You're already on the second side. A week
Damn.
later, all right, you're starting on the second side. And that was a team we had 65 players when I was a freshman. I think
Was that spring of sevens or 15s?
um that was in the mid to late 90s, and that was all 15s all the time.
Okay.
The sevens phenomenon is probably within the last 10 to 12 years, I'd say. Which, I mean, I like sevens. I enjoy the hell out of sevens. I'm terrible at it. I am terrible at it, but I always have a lot of fun. Um, but I think the trying to build a connection between the colleges and the high schools is a massive step towards trying to increase the caliber of rugby. You think about if I'm graduate. I mean, Marshfield, I got Jesus 60 kids on my team, and so if
Wait,
I'm
what? 60?
yeah, I got three sides. So if I'm graduating 15 kids every year and only seven are playing college rugby, well, there's seven guys out there that have at least a solid basic understanding of rugby that aren't playing anymore, that aren't no longer contributing to the massive pyramid of USA rugby. And it's the same thing with colleges. Say you have 12 seniors on your team this year and you graduate and three of them play men. Well, geez, man, there's nine guys who are no longer part of rugby in this country. I'm kind of in an interesting spot where I'm coaching the high school side. I'm on the board of the men's side. So I'm trying to make connections, getting my players into colleges. And I'll also at the same turning around and being like, hey, when you got players coming out, we'd love to take them. We'll help them find jobs. We'll help them with anything they need. We want to keep guys involved. And I think that's one of the things that some of the better programs around the country do a really great job of. There's some programs you can look at that consistently have. Oh, this team always has like four kids from that high school. This team always has two or three kids from that high school. Um, I think that's just an avenue that we need to really develop.
Would any of them be willing to come to New Hampshire?
Yeah, I the winger on Norwich is a Marshfield guy. The winger on UVM is a Marshfield guy. Fly half on Norwich is a Marshfield guy. They're all up. They're all up your neck of the woods. I got a kid playing at Orono. I got dozens of them all over the place. Yeah. One of the things. I mean, it's you got to put yourself back in your high school mindset. Coach telling you, hey, you should go do this on your own. Like this is the thing you should do. Like it has an impact, but it means a lot more when that coach or an alumni comes down to practice and says, "Oh man, this is what we do. You guys look pretty good. You're better than some of our players already. Like we definitely have a place for you." That the invitation means a lot more to people in general than the me pushing them out of the nest. Go try that. Go play in college. It'll be awesome. Which I mean, it is. There's nothing more fun than college rugby.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. You can maybe talk to my coach and see if he'd want to like be
Yeah,
a guest
shoot
thing or
him.
something.
Give him my email. Tell him I'm interested. So in the spring is my high school competitive season, so I'm really focused on that. But coaches are more than welcome to come down, watch a session, talk to the kids, whatever. As the season goes on, sometimes occasionally I'll have bye weeks. I try not to, but occasionally I'll have bye weeks. And if coaches want to come down and even run a session during the bye week, like, yeah, sure. I mean, it's a bye week. You're not going to hurt us. Um, in the summer, we have a sevens coach, my men's club, and there's two local youth clubs that do summer sevens.
Hmm.
They both have coaches, but in the fall, because there really isn't a fall 15s, there's no rugby, right? So we have a team. We had 23 guys doing it, but there was nobody for us to play. So what we focused on was the guest coach model and advanced coaching instead of like, hey, here's how to do a basic ruck. And in the winter, for the first half of the winter, we're following that same model of the guest coach, like meet some college coaches, some high caliber coaches, and we've had some excellent ones come down. Um, Towards the tail end of the winter, it'll probably transition into a little bit into like more preseason type work, like fundamentals. But yeah, by all means, give him my email if he wants to come down or send some alumni down or whatever. I'm always happy to build that connection.
I mean, if he sends me down, that'd be great. Since I mean, it would be better for me to come down than some of the other guys, since I only live in Stoneham. But yeah, that would be a great idea if he okays it. I'd be completely for that. Um, just geez, I get that turned into something.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah, that is the whole point and everything. How many games do you guys usually get to play compared to before, and how have you seen like the growth of rugby change within like the last 10 to 15 years? Because to me, rugby has started to really take on its own because in the last 10 years, we now have a pro rugby league in the United States. More and more high schools are getting teams because I believe either 2 months ago or a month ago, Worcester High School adopted a rugby team. And now you have all these men's leagues, as you mentioned, like they're now popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's growing. It's a lot of questions all wrapped up in one. Rugby,
Sorry.
it's okay. It's growing, which is great. When I played in high school, there were like three teams in Massachusetts, and we went up to New Hampshire and played a team, St. Bernard's, I think, and we went down to Greenwich, Rhode Island, and played a team. And we went. I mean, I went to Fairfield on the edge of New York City and played there when I was in high school. Um, when I took over as a coach, there were a few more teams. So we played Bishop Hendricken down in Rhode Island. So it's funny when I was in high school, all the teams were in public schools, more or less. When I was away, all of the Massachusetts, Boston area Catholic schools adopted teams or made created teams. So when I came back, we played Severian, BC High, St. John's Prep, Malden Catholic, Arlington Catholic, Catholic Memorial. But we also have the traditional Brookline still had a team. Cambridge developed a team. Marshfield had a team. And it was good. So I didn't have to really go on the far side of 95, which is, was nice for me. Instead of 3 hour trips, it were 1 hour trips. Um, I work pretty hard at trying to help any local communities develop a team. So I helped a couple of years ago. I helped Braintree, a random parent from Braintree who played, whose kid was going into high school, wanted to start a team, and I don't know how he got my number, but he did, and I helped him. Kind of write his proposal to the school and walk him through like what kind of things are going to make the school want to do it, which is interest from the kids, coaches who know what they're doing. Then I pointed him towards the U.S. Rugby Foundation's ball grant and some of that other stuff to kind of reduce costs, and I helped him find a couple qualified and experienced coaches, and now that team is very good now. Playing. I think they're only in their third year, and they're playing. I would say good caliber of rugby. Um, I there's a number of towns around me that I'm constantly like, anytime somebody's like, hey, I think I want to try rugby in my town, I'm like, all right, let's do it. We want to
Hmm.
do it. And there's a lot that goes into that. I'm constantly asking my teammates and my alumni, hey, go take the coaches course, go take the referees course. And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't know. I know, of course you don't know. Why would you know? Go take it. And if something pops up, boom, you can do it. But if something pops up and you don't have the course, well, you can't do it. That thing that pops up is going to wither and die. You know, um, it's a build it and they will come situation. It's not the other way around. Um, so there's definitely that. Youth rugby, little kids rugby is growing surprisingly fast. It's one of those things. It's like disc golf or ultimate frisbee. It's one of those things. If you don't hear about it, you'll never hear about it. But I can tell you there is a lot of youth rugby, some very, very large programs. In my area, we have a club called the Sharks, Social Sharks, that do a great job. But there's also not too far away from us is the Wareham Barbarians. It has a fairly large program. The um, the Wolfhounds have a decent little youth program. Mystic Rugby Club has a very well developed youth rugby program. Uh, so there's a lot of that. It's grown all over the place. I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest things to help make that go was recognition by the MIAA. And then once that happened, it was in the newspapers, and people who wanted to start programs said, like, no, look, this is a legitimate high school sport here in Massachusetts. We should have it, or we should have youth it, or whatever. Um, and I think that was a big part of what made it grow. I think the other significant part is the players my age or just a little bit younger than me, um, who are done playing, who'd had good careers with good coaching, don't want to leave the sport. So they're like, oh well, I'm done playing, but maybe I'll coach a little bit, maybe I'll ref a little bit. Versus, I look at a lot of the players who are a little bit older than me, and when they were done, they were kind of done. But now a lot of guys my age who are done are like, I want to stay involved, and coaching is a great way to do it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
So, damn, that's a lot to take in right there. Damn, it's flourishing way better than I thought it was. Honestly, I thought we were still kind of like all spread out there. But man, we're starting to actually get
It
organized.
is. I mean, it is spread out. It is. There is an aspect of it that is the Wild West, but it is growing, and I think that's awesome that it's growing. I think people there are now. The road is paved now. You're not blazing your own trail. So if you want to start a club, if you want to start a youth program, if you want to, like, there are people around who know how to do that and know who to talk to and what to organize.
Has there been any contact, I guess, between the pro team here in Massachusetts, the Revolution, about camps or
Oh yeah,
guest
the
speaker or
so
coaching?
so the Free Jacks. So my men's club.
Oh my God, I said the Revolution.
Oh, did you?
Like
Ha!
I said the
That's the other.
Revolution.
That's regular football. That's not rugby football. The Free
Oh my
Jacks, when
God.
they first started, in their very first season, they used local men's players. A couple of my teammates played a match or two with them, and uh, and they kind of had their hands full. But now that they're really well established, yeah, I talk to members of their program pretty often about all sorts of different things. I mean, 2 years ago, I took my high school team to one of their games. This past year, the scheduling just didn't iron out, but it's something I plan on doing it going forward. They've come down and watched. We had what was it called? A talent ID clinic 2 years ago. I think we had 136 kids from 8 to 16, 8 to 18. 136 kids came down, and they had a couple free jacks come down and watch and take a look at some of the players in the area. Um, they have come and done guest coaching at our fall session. Um, so they are making an effort to get out into the community. I think one of the unfortunately where I think I see it going, and I kind of hope I'm wrong about this, is that they're trying to develop their own youth programs and their own clinics and their own, so their involvement in mine might become less in the future as they get more and more established. But for right now, there's a lot of intermingling, and they're constantly, advertising like, hey, come try out for our youth side, come try out for our high school side, come try out for our college side. Um, which is good.
hmm I wish that. I hope something similar to that happens to my team soon because I'd love to play pro or men's league or something to that extent. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
my
mean,
career to die.
yeah, I think men's league is like, so I played like 20 years in men's league. I still play, to be honest with you. I played 5 games this past fall, waiting for my old boy spring schedule to come out. Um, Men's league, there is a home for everybody. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are. how much experience you have, how much experience you don't have, if you're, what size or position you are. The most of the men's clubs are happy to have more players. And if you join one where you feel like, I'm just not, it's not meshing right. Here in Boston, there's a ton of, I mean, we got more men's clubs here than anywhere else in the country. So you can, hey, you know what, this one wasn't a good fit. Let me try that one. Oh man, that one's a great fit. The number of guys I play with now on my old boys side who I played against when I was playing regular men's, it's hysterical to me. Like, oh man, I banged heads with this guy for like 8 years, and now he's my teammate. I love him. Um, there's a lot of room, and the men's teams are not, they're not going to tell you no, you're not good enough. If they do, go find a different one because most of the clubs would be happy to have another member. And if you want to play higher caliber rugby, like you got to do the things that higher caliber players do, right? You got to hit the gym, right? And it can't just be like I'm going to the gym on my own and doing, bench press and beach muscles. I gotta like, hey, I gotta find rugby workouts and do rugby workouts with squats and cleans and deadlifts and all that jazz. I gotta do speed work. I can't just be playing in season, in the off season. I gotta at least get a ball in my hands a couple days a week and do that. I gotta there's a lot to it if you want to be as elite of a player as you can be, um but you don't have to do that to keep playing, right? I got guys that I play with who are good, solid, regular rugby players, who just live their life and come play rugby, and we have a blast.
By any chance, have you ever played Amskeg?
I've played MSK dozens of times.
One of my coaches plays for them actually, and we've actually practiced with Amskeg, like and and
Yeah, they're
stuff. So
good.
I have a semi understanding of how good these guys can get.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I was 18, I was a very good wrestler in high school. I was one of the top guys in New England. And I thought, like, oh, this is the peak of my athletic career. Like, I'm not good enough to wrestle in college, which I was not. Right? But this is the peak of my athletic career. Then I played college rugby, and after a couple of years of playing college rugby, I'm like, wow, I'm like way better than I was at rugby when I was 18. And then I joined men's rugby, and I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, like, I'm 24, I'm over the hill, like, whatever. And at 28, I mean, I was 100 times better than I was at 24. I mean, at 30, I was better than I was at 28. It's your athletic peak isn't where people think it is, you know. And one of the cool things about rugby, it's kind of like soccer, where it's really an intellectual game. The better you understand it, the easier it is to play. And I look at my men's club, our competitive side has like two or three guys in their mid 30s who are still top level players, and they're not gym fiends. They work out whatever, but they're not gym fiends. My younger brother is still playing for our A side. He's 46, and he scored, I don't know, a couple tries this past season. And he keeps himself in a shape, but he's not, he's a teacher. He has little kids that play their own sports. Like he's living a life. He's not 100% dedicated. I think rugby, one of the things I tell my high school athletes is, rugby is a cool sport because you can play it for the rest of your life. And there aren't a lot of sports like that. Soccer, hockey, softball, rugby, that might be I mean, golf, tennis, but that might be it. Like football, no, wrestling, no, lacrosse, probably not. All of those, like if you're not a certain caliber of player, you probably can't play for the rest of your life. But rugby, I mean, you could be just terrible and a good guy, and people are like, yeah, come play.
Man, these are the reasons why I play because it's just like, hey, come here, play, and just have some damn fun. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
Except also to win pretty trophies in the end. Not the participation awards, which you can throw out in the trash. So, I mean, that's more. I I think we more or less have covered everything I wanted to because I I wanted to get the eyes of a high school coach because I didn't before I went to the middle of the Marshfield that day. I had no idea high schools even had teams. Before I met you, I didn't even know any of the other stuff. I mean, geez,
Yeah,
there's a
there's a
lot
lot
more
out
and
there.
more.
There's a lot out there. Rugby's it's a little bit of a weird sport. You know, it still kind of has a little when I was young. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched those like evolution of the scrum videos or rucking in the 80s. I mean, like I played under those rules when I was a young player. Like it's a much different sport now than it was then. And unfortunately, in some corners of the country, it still harbors the bad reputation that it had then now, even though it no longer deserves it, you know. And so one of the weird things because of that, you know, everybody's worried like, oh, you know, if I tell my principal I play rugby, well, how's he going to react? This could go bad. Um, you'll find that you probably know a number of people who've played for a long time, and it's just never come up in conversation. You know, I just recently I was wearing my men's club jacket. I wore it to school. It was raining. I wore my men's club jacket, and a teacher came up to me, a guidance counselor came up and was like, "Oh man, I didn't realize you play rugby. I thought you just coach rugby. You play like I've played against that team." It's like, "Oh yeah, I played from these colors for most of my life." You know, and I was somebody like I had no idea you played rugby, and you know, and it's one of the experiences my alumni end up encountering. It's like, you know, they go and play in college and they go get a job and they're like, oh yeah, oh man, my boss played rugby like, you know, wherever in Texas, and I mean it's cool. Like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people who played rugby. Uh, you know, I forget what the numbers are. There's something like 100,000 players in this country, whatever it is. But that doesn't factor in that our retention rate is so poor. You know, there's 100,000 active players. There's probably 700,000 retired players. You know, at all ages, high school age or college age or men's age, players who had played and didn't, for whatever reason, didn't continue. So there's a lot out there. You got to really dig and listen and learn as much as you can.
Damn. Um, the I know we're getting to the end part, but it's like I finally remembered. My my school plays in for NCR, National Collegiate
Oh yeah,
Rugby.
I know NCR. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's who we're covered by, and I guess that's not a good enough governing body to my school, so that's why we're still labeled as a club team.
Oh, all right. I see what you're saying.
So yeah, we still have to pay for everything ourselves. Mostly we carpool when we
Yeah,
can.
I think a lot of schools are in that situation. You know, one of the real problems collegiate rugby is facing is actually Title IX issues. You know, when you look at your traditional college sports, you know, most of the sports, almost all of the sports is there's some men's soccer, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, baseball, softball, right? They all have uh, a, a partner of each gender that has the same size roster and probably the same amount of scholarships and all that. But then you get American football. And unfortunately, American football doesn't have a female counterpart. So you have all of these players and all of these scholarships with no female counterpart to balance it out in Title IX justifications. Um, so men's rugby wants to join, like, geez, another men's sport that has a huge roster. We can't do that and honor Title IX. But that's why women's rugby is I forget what it's defined as an emerging sport in the NCAA because women's
Yes.
rugby big roster. Oh, you can balance out football, right? Like one of the things men's collegiate rugby really needs to be rooting for is female football. If female football comes along and balances out collegiate football, then men's rugby can come in and balance out women's rugby at the college level. You know, Title IX is it's a wonderful bill with really excellent intentions, um, but it's a little challenging to navigate. And as with many things, there are some unforeseen circumstances. Um, so a lot of colleges like sounds like yours because men's rugby isn't recognized by the NCAA. They're hands off, like oh, we're just going to be a club. But not all colleges treat it that way. There are a number that do treat it varsity. I think
I wish ours was one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure every collegiate player in the country says that. Like, well, oh God, I'd love to have first choice of classes and first choice of housing and access to the varsity weight room and access to the athletic trainer and a bus and not have to pay all these dues. And, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think part of that, it's like I was saying earlier, you want to be treated like a varsity athlete, you got to act like it. So part of it is, being visible, having a great social media account, doing a lot of fundraising, being organized, being responsible, not getting caught in any stupid trouble, um, and proving that to your school administration over and over and over and over again, and success on the field for that matter as well. Improving that over and over and over again. Like, look, we're good. We cause no trouble. We do community service. We're winning. We have all these players that are invested. I think those are the kind of things universities want to hear. Like, hey, kids want to come to your university because of our team, are things universities want to hear.
That is definitely a goal that I hope my team does very much because I want our success to be sustained after I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I guess yeah, honestly, I can't think of anything else. I mean, I've covered the book and then some. Is there anything like you want to get out there with the opportunity you have with this kind of platform?
We've covered a lot. If anybody sees this and has more questions or wants to talk or opportunities, I'm always interested. I'll be coaching at Marshfield High School likely until I die. So I'm always happy to hear more, learn more, talk more about it.
Hmm. Well, I hope ladies and gentlemen enjoyed, and I hope this helps some people get into rugby, I hope it helped people have a better understanding of rugby, and I hope you people enjoyed. See you next time.
Thank you.